SEC Unfiltered platform again. We're reacting to our second speaker of the day of day 3, new head coach, first timer on the podium, Jeff Lebby, the Mississippi State head man, coming over from the Oklahoma Sooners, where he was the OC for 2 years and was at UCF before that. Phenomenal play caller. I'm your host, Dave Shumate. He is my co-host. Cole Thompson's been with us here the last 2 days, rocking and rolling, guys. Me and Cole talking a little off air. Cole, I don't want to spoil it. I want to speak for you. What did you get, or what did you not get from Jeff Lebby's first SEC Media Days?
So let's just start off with this. It's very well known that I am not the biggest Jeff Lebby supporter. I have not fallen into the Kool-Aid of believing that he is going to transcend this offense and turn Mississippi State into what Dan Mullen did. I made that clear. But I want to give everyone a fair shake at their first media press conference. And this is, again, his first head coaching job. So it's a little bit different because of it is in the SEC. We haven't heard him outside of just coordinator conversations. I want to know more about Mississippi State. I want to know what were the ins and outs of Mississippi State as a program. Who were the pieces that they added in? You got to remember, this is a team that's not returning anyone on offense. This is a team that's returning 2 starters on defense. They're replacing almost all of their backup production. There's question marks when it comes to depth. It's a brand new system that is not air raid. Let's get this out of the way. It's not an air raid offense. It is a psycho baby made of Josh Heupel. I would probably say Lane Kiffin, and then you throw Art Browse, wide receiver, vertical attack down the field. Like, that's what you get. I want to know more about this roster. And I left the presser feeling like I still don't know anything about Mississippi State, which, again, could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, could be a question mark, could be something that ends up really benefiting in the favor of the Bulldogs this upcoming year, especially when it comes to the national standpoint when they rise out of nowhere. But I just want to know a little bit more about the program. I know what Blake Shapen is, but I know who Blake Shapen is because I covered the Big 12. I know Big 12 football. I know Baylor. I know Dave Aranda. I know who some of these other defensive linemen that they added in are because if they played in the SEC. The linebacker that he mentioned, who was it? Stone Blanton. He's coming on over from South Carolina.
Yeah.
Like, I know him because I've seen him play before. But I don't really get a good sense of who Mississippi State is. They lost a ton of production. They brought in some names. I think it's 19 transfers. They also brought in a few JUCO players. I want to know about where this team is right now, heading into fall camp. I know they're going to be intense, but everyone's going to be intense. That's the entire point of when you play in the SEC. I still don't have a good derivative feel around where Mississippi State is as a program.
No, before we continue on, guys, remember this segment is brought to you by MyBookie. Go to mybookie.ag and use code SECU at sign up to receive a special welcome offer on your first deposit. MyBookie was nice enough to sponsor this trip. That's why our guy Chris Phillips has boots on the ground at the Omni in downtown Dallas. But to Cole's point, Mississippi State loses 7 of their top 8 tacklers from last season. Like you mentioned, Stone Blanton, the Lewis kids there that he mentioned, he had the whole misquote. That's not really responding to Jeff Lebby's response. You're right. This is the first one, and it's day 3 that I think I really got nothing. I'm a little stuck. Like, it's like, I'm with you a lot more. And it wasn't Jeff Lebby's fault. I mean, me and Cole talked a little bit off air. It's like, I think the questions, like if we keep getting these schedule questions, yeah, their road schedule's tough as hell. They play at Texas. They go at Georgia. They play at Ole Miss. And then they play. Where's the other one? They got another.
They don't play Texas A&M. Not Missouri.
It's at Texas, at Georgia, at Ole Miss.
Is it Tennessee?
At Tennessee.
At Tennessee.
And they go to Neyland. Yeah, I mean, we know that. I mean, but again, what do you want that guy to say? He's going to say the same thing.
It's the SEC. Like, that's the point. Every game is going to be tough. That's what we've been saying for Texas and Oklahoma fans. Don't sleep on Mississippi State and Kentucky just because their stadiums aren't as big as yours.
I wish someone would have asked him about new DC Coleman Hutzler. I have a lot of questions from him. I mean, he was at South Carolina, normally a special teams coordinator, been at Alabama as the outside linebackers coach the last 2 years. They kind of have a connection, I think, from their time at Ole Miss. When Hutzler, I think, was there for a year with Kiffin, and so was Lebby. So I think that's the connection. How's that adjustment been? It didn't look great in the spring game. It's just a spring game. Not trying to judge him off that. It didn't look great. You tell me if I'm wrong here, Cole. I think when Zach Selman, the AD who came over from Oklahoma to Mississippi State, again now the AD at Mississippi State, I think when he made this hire, me and you we both like John Summerall, so we both thought it got the job. I'm assuming Selman thought he was going with a little bit more of the exciting product, the explosive offense, stuff like that. I think that needs to happen this year. I don't think you may disagree with me, Cole. I think you don't, but I don't think State gets to 6 this year. I have a very hard time finding 6 wins on that schedule.
Sure.
I think if they could get, I mean, I asked one of I'm from Mississippi originally, so I asked one of my State buddies what's a realistic expectation, and he's a realistic fan. He's never worked in athletics. He's just a big Mississippi State guy. He said 5 wins and an exciting offense. I was like, I think that is a fair expectation. And again, I never want to call a losing record 5-7 a successful season for anybody. A losing record, that's for losers. That's not a good season. But I think a fair expectation in year one would be 5 wins, and you put a pretty entertaining product out on offense. And maybe you still a conference win at home against Arkansas or Florida or A&M would probably be your best bets to steal a conference win. You're not getting a road win. I'll take that to the bank. You ain't getting a road win. So maybe you get it at home against one of those 3. I think that'd be your best bet. I mean, is my buddy's expectations wrong for Mississippi State heading into this year, Cole?
No, I will say if you got 1 road win and you take away 1 home victory and you go 4-8, that might be a little bit more positive because of the teams that you're going up against the road against. To your point about Zach Selman, it's really interesting because there's another program that we talk about a lot with Florida going after their go-to guy. And what I mean by that is there's a comfortability, there's also a familiarity, there's also an understanding that you two can see eye to eye in building a program in your image, which is the initial plan of what Scott Strickland did when he left Mississippi State to go to Florida, and he hired Dan Mullen to come on over. He believed that Mullen had the right vision in play. So that's a big deal. Like, if you were to tell me right off the top of my head who was my first pick, it was not Jeff Lebby. Do I understand why Lebby was a front runner for the job? Absolutely. Do I understand why Lebby might end up being, if you crushed it here, following Selman back to Oklahoma when he takes over for Joe Castiglione, which, by the way, as long as he does well at Mississippi State, that's going to happen. OU fans, I'm just going to let you know right now, that is your new AD in the waiting. He is at Mississippi State, kind of cutting his teeth right now to feel it. But I will say expectations for me is establishing the offense, because whether or not I believe that this offense can be sustainable at Mississippi State, I might be completely wrong because of, again, I am trying to get a good understanding of where the program is. It has worked in a sense of this up-tempo attack. We know it because of we saw it a few years ago with Mike Leach get to 9 wins. So it can work, and it can work with not having the right depth. There was a part of during his opening presser where he said there's 4 main elements that we have to have: fun, toughness, competitiveness, and accountability. If they can establish that on offense this year with a stable offensive line that's accountable for whenever they give up a sack, that regroups and is able to now hold a block for Blake Shapen on the next play to be able to move back and get positive yards instead of negative yards. If they're having fun while being able to put up a lot of points at Wade Davis Stadium, if they're able to go and add in the right personnels and have that competitive nature to where at practice you feel like anybody who is sitting in the second team could step on up and immediately be an addition and a plug-and-play standpoint for the first team offense, maybe that's considered a win. You know, I think that Lebby was a little honest, in my opinion, where it comes down to his personality of where this program is. He knows it's going to be a build. I think that also he understands that this is going to take time because of where these other programs are in the process of the rebuild. So Missouri's already further ahead. Ole Miss is further ahead. You're not going to admit that out loud to just certain players, but you will at least bring it up in conversation. You know where you guys sit. I think that there was a very solid, stern understanding of expectations year one when it came to Lebby. The one thing I will say is Lebby does have a great experience of coaching in the SEC during his time underneath Lane Kiffin. He brought it up. The quote that stood out to me the most, and this will be the part where I think really makes or breaks Lebby, and it will be the reason why Mississippi State still is that team that we talk about every few years as, damn, they're doing that. He gets trench play because he mentioned that trench play was essential, and it's not about weeks 3 through 5. It's about weeks 8 through 12. So many people focus in on having a great start to the season, and you need it. But it's those games down the stretch when your body is beaten and bruised, you're missing a few players because of injury, and how you build that camaraderie to be able to overexceed expectations. I think that was the biggest selling point for me when it came to Lebby. He's a big character with a very timid overall approach, but that does not mean that he cannot get loud and proud when it comes out in the football field.
Yeah, I mean, he stated he's not going to go back and forth in the banner with Lane Kiffin on social media. So I don't think that's going to be a thing. He called it childish a little bit. I don't think that was a direct jab. I think he was more talking to himself a little bit before people take and run with it. How about our guy here, John Lewis, though? Essentially saying, what was the exact quote? Let me pull it up on my phone. I know.
The Mississippi State. Yeah. Okay.
Let me read it real fast. Let me find it.
Just real fast. I get it. I do. What are you supposed to say? Oh yeah, we're little brother. Like I don't expect a single person from Texas A&M or UT to say something.
He says, "Quote: This is our state. Everybody knows that we run the SIP because we run Mississippi. We've been saying it. They're just following us, so it's okay. They literally want to be us. Yeah, I mean, other than him just being like, I'm not going to get into that banter. I don't know what else. I mean." He's going to stick up for his team. He's going to be. I mean, I don't know about the following thing. I mean, I think Ole Miss has done the SIP thing since Lane Kiffin's been there. So I don't know if that's really the following thing, but it is what it is. I mean, I wanted to just bring that up briefly before we get out of here. But you're right, Lebby. I feel no different about me. I feel like I don't know them. I'm with you. I think
that's a fair point.
Heading into 2024 is I just don't know them that well, and I'm assuming, like you mentioned, the depth's not going to be there in the games come November. Injuries will be critical. They have the toughest road slate in the league for sure. I think overall expectations should be, I mean, you may not agree with them, but it's going to probably be in that 4-5 range. I think that Arizona State game in Tempe, that's a big game. I think that's going to be a game Mississippi State fans expect to win against what Kenny Dillingham will be going into his third year.
Second year, but also brand new quarterback because Rashad is gone. So
yeah, correct. That's a game. I know it's a road game. Jeff Lebby should win. I think that's your early, hey, where are we at? Then I think you get it. I think the next week Florida comes to town to open up league play. Who knows? If you're undefeated, rolling in their first SEC game, Davis-Wade Stadium, cowbells are going to be rocking against a team. Who knows what Florida will be doing at that point? Because I mean, they have a big one against Miami and A&M. But I think it's fair, Cole. You mentioned it. I think a realistic expectation. I think most Mississippi State fans are on board with this. I think Mississippi State's one of the more realistic fan bases in the conference, honestly.
I would agree with that.
I think if you gave them 6-7 wins every year, 6 to 8 wins, and you beat Ole Miss once, twice out of every 3 to 4 years, they're all right. They know they're placed in the league. So I don't think these are overly expectation people. Again, I think 5 wins, you're a pretty good offense. And you can kind of sell, hey, the defense, we're going to go get in the portal in the offseason and we'll improve our personnel here heading into 25. I think that's the expectation. Try to get a conference win. Tell me if I'm wrong. I think your best bet's probably either Arkansas at home or depending what A&M's probably doing, A&M at home. I don't know if they get Florida. I still think Florida's better than Mississippi State. I think those are your 2 best bets.
What I will say about Lebby, regardless of my own personal opinion of him and what I think of his future with being a head coach, it's going to be really important to establish a culture because of you heard him talking about recruiting. Mississippi State is going to be one of those programs to where I do wonder how big is the transfer portal going to have to be in effect because of they're going to get proven names. And he brought this up, they're only returning 2 total starters, but they got a ton of guys they brought in with starting experience, just not in Starkville, which is a really good move, really positive in the right direction, shows you that there is a temperament and that there are certain players they're targeting. I think that establishing a culture to where they're able to get on the lines with other people who have transferred in the past. You see players go into the portal. They use that foundation of guys who have already been pretty well established with the program. Selling Starkville is going to be really big. So that culture standpoint is, I think, going to be essential. And I think that because if he is a little bit on the younger side, that's going to help him out a lot. I don't worry about the quarterback position. The one thing I will say is that I don't worry about who he brings in as a quarterback. I think that he can scout quarterbacks extremely well. He's done so for years. Like a few days ago, they were talking with Jackson Dart from Ole Miss about where he was going to go. And it came down to Ole Miss, where Lebby was at, and then Oklahoma, where Lebby went. And now we know what Jackson Dart has turned into. So he understands that position. But everything else is going to be about establishing a culture. I think that they're going to carry themselves with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, which again comes with a lot of us not really believing in Jeff Lebby. And again, you emulate your coach, and that's a good thing. But I do wonder what is going to be the end result of this season and how you build for next year. I think that there's a great understanding by the fan base and by the coaching staff. We want to win this year, but winning doesn't always translate into victories on the field. It translates into getting that 4-star that was looking at LSU to come to us. It's getting that 3-star that was looking at a program like Vanderbilt come to us. It's looking at a 5-star that's going to stay in state. It's about these JUCO kids that have an opportunity to go play at a higher school as a backup. They're coming to us and they're getting starting reps. That's where I think winning also is a big deal. So expectations are establishing that culture, getting a monumental win at some point on the field, and building a baseline and a foundation to where people will look at Mississippi State, kind of like we did underneath Dan Mullen, and said, you know what? That's a place I want to play. And more importantly, that's a place I want to be developed because I know I'm going to be better on the other side when I come out.
Yeah, development key now. I mean, it's a developmental state. There's a lot of talent that comes out of Mississippi, but a lot of it's really raw because the coaching and the pay for salaries at the high school level is not there. And a lot of that talent's where Lebby's going to have to go supplement a lot of this offensively. His talent's going to have to come from the portal because it's not a real –
It has to.
It's not an offensive state from a high school recruit. It's a very defensive state. I mean, go look at all the Mississippi State defensive linemen in the league right now. Most of them from the state, very raw. Outside of Jeffrey Simmons and I think Fletcher Cox, the rest of them weren't highly ranked guys.
But the thing is also they were developed. And like that's
it's a developmental program. Now with the portal, you keeping kids, you got to be able to keep them. But I'll say this, a lot of those guys are very – very homebodies. They're not Philadelphia, Mississippi. A lot of those kids don't want to leave mom.
By the way, I meant to ask you, did you find it funny when people were like, because I saw on Twitter a few people saying, oh God, Mississippi State's a fundamental program, meaning like they're a feeder school to like JUCOs. It's like, bro, that's not what fundamental means. Like I saw multiple people on Twitter talk about it's like, no, fundamental program. No, fundamental means when you show up, you're getting your ass into shape and you're going to work and you're going to earn it. So don't worry about what you did at Alabama. They don't care about that. They care about the fundamentals being taught here.
Yeah, like that's their defensive line coach now, David Turner. He was there to coach a lot of those guys that are in the NFL at Mississippi. I mean, Mississippi State essentially from an NFL production standpoint, defensive line U. But no, I mean, overall, again, didn't really learn a whole lot. I'm very intrigued by them. I do think, like I mentioned, that Arizona State non-conference game will be key. But, Cole, unless you have anything else to add, we're going to get off, wait for our guy, Billy Napier. He'll be up. And then our guy, Steve Sarkisian from Texas, will finish the day. Cole, anything else?
Yeah, I just want to see who's going to be the number one at every position this year. Because unfortunately, we didn't get the answer to that. We did get the answer to how's it going to be playing against Texas at DKR, which, again, in the Big 12, it would have been difficult. Don't think it wouldn't have been difficult because they now have the SEC logo. But at least maybe I'll get to see who's going to break out as the new number one wide receiver. Because the offense is really fun. And if they do have a great overall aura with the offensive line up front, I think somebody's going to break out really big. I will not be shocked to see all these top tier wide receivers that we talk about, Trey Harris, Luther Burden, and then like number 6, a Mississippi State guy in shape and just slinging it.
Yeah, like the kid from the transfer from UTEP, the Akahari kid. He had a big spring game.
Yeah.
Nobody even asked about that. I was with you. I was intrigued by him too. But yeah, I mean, I think Keith, got to start 3-0. You got to get the win against, who is it, Eastern Kentucky, against the Colonels, at Arizona State, as I mentioned, and then Toledo before you open up conference play at home against Florida. You know just as well as I do. If it's 3-0 and Florida and them come to town, that'll be a ruckus environment. Maybe Mississippi State could get one of those home games in conference play. But again, for myself, I'm your host, Dave Shumate, coming at you here from the SEC Unfiltered platform. He's my buddy, co-host here, Cole Thompson. We'll be back in probably about an hour once Billy Napier and the Florida Gators get off the stage, guys. But go follow us on all social platforms. Like, subscribe. Again, go follow our guy, Chris Phillips, boots on the ground. Appreciate our guys, my bookie, covering that trip for him. But we'll see you in about an hour, guys.